you please to be with this meeting and be with all those involved. And we ask forgiveness when we do make many mistakes. We ask all this in the name of your dear Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Now we'll give our attention to Brother Don as he develops the theme, how to improve family communication.
Once upon a time, now let's just imagine this is a conversation that Brother Don or Tan would have with his dad. So, hey Tan, how was your day? It's good. Well, how was school or your presentation?
I just said it's good, okay?
And then off he walked away. Well, let's imagine that, and we see how it goes already. Was it a good communication that we see that Tan has with his dad? I didn't think so either, right? So, and I wouldn't want to be like Tan, but can it be improved? Yes, absolutely. But in any topic, communication is one of the tough one, and I have 3 ladies to commute with. So I guess they talk for me, right? Well, to begin with, let's find ourselves at Proverbs chapter 15, and we'll start with verse 22, and see how it would help us to avoid not to be like Tan. So again, Proverbs 15 and verse 22. Now it says that plans fail when there is no consultation, but there is accomplishment through many advisor. So in order to have upbuilding communication in the family, even though it's not mentioned in the verse, but do we see the 3 aspects that mentioned in there? Open in order to have good plan, and then they must show respect to one another, and the main point is love. So again, love, respectful, and loving communication is very, very essential for family happiness. So now what do we see? Now let's look at our first pictures. What do we see here? So it would be something that we think is normal because this is happening all around us in the world, right? But is it just because what the world thinks to be normal and we think in the same way? Well, no, it's actually something that actually hindering for good communication. It's not just only what we see at electronic devices, but also what about busy schedules or even our imperfect self of nowadays. And a really good reminder for us is that Proverbs chapter 24, verse 3, it said that by wisdom a house is built up, and by discernment it is made secure. So let's think about it just for a second. Does it take one person to build up a whole house? No, it took many ones to involve in it, right? So if each member in the family apply this counsel from Proverbs chapter 24, verse 3, then we see that it should help each one to improve their communication skill and strengthen the family relationship. The answer is yes. And we will break this topic of communication in 2 different parts. The first one is communication between husband and wives. And then secondly, communication between parents and children. Now let's go into the first one, communication between husband and wives. So husband and wives, we might find our mate to have the same hobbies, but things that they like to do together, but there is something very different between them. That is their communication styles. Why is that the case? Well, because we are 2 different persons, culturally raised different, and the way that we think would also be different. Or what about our points of views? Would it be also different, right? So on May 15, 2013, the Watchtower brought out the expression of this married couple. Let's read that. So the wife said, "My husband wants to solve problems quickly rather than hear me out." And the husband said that when my wife and I were first married, my tendency was to find a quick solution to whatever problem that she had. And within the attitude of the husband like that, the wife further expressed that this is so frustrating when all I want is peace and sympathy. And then the husband soon noticed, and then he applied the Bible principle at Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13. When anyone replies to matter before he hears the facts, it is foolish and humiliating. So then he realized and said this, I soon learned that what she really wanted was a listening ear. So what have we learned? So husband, you and I, we could take some note now. So let's open our Bible together and we'll start to read 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Now while you're there, we can see what we can learn. So this is for husband. So again, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Now it said that you husbands, in the same way, continue dwelling with them according to knowledge. Assign them honor as to a weaker vessel. The feminine ones, since they are also heirs with you of the undeserved favor of life, in order for your prayers not to be hindered. So we husbands, sometimes we just think of the solutions or how to fix the problem right away. That is great. It's great, but not so great. Well, because with the verse that we just read, do we see Jehovah teaches us to be a good listener and considers our wife's emotional needs? Let's pull up our second image. And we look at it, do we see the way that our brother does? He making eye contact with his wife while she was talking, right? And then because that is the way that the wife really prefers most of the time, they want to talk it off their chest before they really hear the problem or maybe the solutions. So, and we have a wonderful example from the Bible that he showed his discernment to his wives, Elkanah. So if we read the accounts in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 4 to 7, we could see the problem that Hannah has. She was dealing with could not have children and then being taunted and could not understand why Jehovah haven't answered her prayers as she haven't had any kids yet. But notice how Elkanah discerned Hannah's emotion distress and comforted her in verse 8. So again, 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 8. But her husband Elkanah said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? And why do you not eat? Why are you so sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? So is a problem about having children still there? Yes. But it gave her the comfort right away. So now let's talk about my first lady and yours two brothers, the wives. So now the husband know that they must have to be a good listener. Then what do the wives have to do? They must express their needs and feelings openly, but in what way? In a respectful way to her husband. It is so important as we look in the book of Proverbs, the 31st chapter and verse 26. And then this is the way that Jehovah asks of the wives. Let's go over there together. Proverbs 31, verse 26. And it says this, she opens her mouth in wisdom. The law of kindness is on her tongue. So which kind of tells that the way that she speaks, the tone that she set would also be in the wisdom of God. So that's what Rebecca did, Bible example. She expressed her strong feeling to Isaac, moving him to act and respond. And Rebecca keeps saying this to Isaac, I am disgusted with the life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob ever takes his wife from the daughters of Heth, like these daughters of the land, what good is my life? So, and there was no indication further if we read in the accounts that Isaac would responded harshly to her. So when disagreement arises, instead of escalate the heat of the argument by saying, you never want to spend time with me. And she says something like, I wish we could spend more time together. So by doing this, she's not focusing on the problems, but she's focusing on the problem, but not her husband's flaw. We see that? So it is so hard to do it right away, to have a meaningful and heartfelt communication. But as reminded, an insightful husband takes notes of his wife feeling and tries to adapt it accordingly. And make sure to let her know that her thoughts and feelings are so important to him. And also, but at the same time, the wife is trying to understand his viewpoint. And it does take some time for both of them because of their different personality, the husband and the wives, they get used to it. So make consideration of this question. Do we regularly set aside time to talk together? So when husband and wives could find a way just to fit a little bit of their time and talk together from their busy life, it will help them to bond better. So even just to talk about how their days were, or something that they found interested, or maybe a discussion that they can find on jw.org. Okay? So by doing that, they are training themselves for upbuilding and peaceful communication when problem arise. Now, also the problem when problem arise, showing humility also helps keep a communication flowing. Why is that the case? Well, because it's really take love, boldness, and courage to do that. Let's take a look at Colossians chapter 3, and we'll read verse 12 and 13. Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 and 13. And it said, accordingly, as God's chosen ones, holy in love, clothe yourself with the tender affections of compassion, kindness, humility, mildness, and patience. Continue putting up with one another and forgiving one another freely, even if anyone has a cause or complains against one another. Just as Jehovah freely forgave you, you must also do the same. Do we see the three aspects of humility in it, don't we? But with love, we humble ourselves, and it's also motivated us to seek peace. And then with boldness, we are show humility by saying to our mate that I'm sorry. And lastly, with courage, we show humility by overlook each other's flaws or pride, and then just focus to tackle the problem together. But is it easy? No. But what about with Jehovah help? Yes. So it will be so much easier if we let Jehovah involve into our way of communication with each other, right? V and I, we had failed to do this before, but we often look into each other's flaws and then always cry about ourselves. We never accept that we were wrong. But when we seek for Jehovah, He showed us the way. And V and I, we found the quickest shortcuts to humility is prayer. When we approach Jehovah together, we are being reminded how imperfect we are. And then with Jehovah's undeserved kindness, He actually showed us to put things in a proper perspective. So as problem arise, one willing to be quick to apologize, and the other one will be quick to forgive. By doing this, husband and wives, they are fulfilling their scriptural roles, and their union is a thing of beauty. So, and they are able to work together, making and carrying out wise and balanced decisions based on God's guidance. And then they could maintain good communication between husband and wives. Now let's talk about my two other ladies, the children. So we have the third pictures here. And do we see the way that the mother does? Was he like really rushing? No, right? But instead, that she was very approachable, to listen patiently to her daughters, and the key points of that is the key point to maintain the good communication. Now, the book for parents only, okay? No, the kids' number one most common complaint about their parents was they don't listen. Why don't parents listen? Well, because oftentimes that we are older and we think that we know better. But that's not the case. But notice what James chapter 1, verse 19, each parent. Let's go there together. James chapter 1, verse 19, and replace the word brothers with parents. Notice, my beloved parents, you must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. This step is very important because even though we as parents, we feel tired sometimes. But if we could hear them out by paying attention to their tones of voice or even their body language, these will actually give clues about how our young ones feel. when we are listening to our young one, asking questions are also very important, because Proverbs chapter 20 verse 5 said that a person's thoughts are like the water in a deep well. But if we asking questions, we show that we care about their problems, and we can draw out whatever they might have thinking in their mind, right? But if we are lacking showing this type of interest in them, and we don't want to listen to them,